Rights and obligations of a wife in Islam. Introduction to Islamic marital framework. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. Welcome to today's discussion, where we'll explore rights and obligations of a wife in Islam. In Islam, marriage is considered a sacred covenant, mithaq, between two individuals. The Quran describes marriage as a relationship of tranquility, love and mercy, Quran Surah 30 Ayah 21. Unlike some religious traditions, Islam views marriage as a contractual relationship with clearly defined rights and responsibilities for both spouses. The Islamic framework for marriage balances complementary roles with mutual respect. While there are distinct rights and obligations for wives and husbands, these exist within a broader context of spiritual equality. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, stated, "Women are the twin halves of men," Tirmidhi, emphasizing their equal spiritual standing. Historical context and evolution. To understand a wife's rights and obligations in Islam, we must consider historical context. Pre-Islamic Arabia often treated women as property, denying them inheritance rights and social standing. Islam introduced revolutionary reforms, granting women legal personhood, inheritance rights, and protection from abuse. The early Islamic period saw women like Khadija, Aisha, and Fatima holding significant social influence. Over centuries, cultural practices sometimes diverged from these early models, with regional customs often influencing interpretations of a wife's role more than theological principles. Foundational rights of a wife. The Islamic marriage contract establishes several fundamental rights for wives. 1. Financial maintenance. Nafaka. A husband must provide food, clothing, shelter, and medical care according to his means. 2. Mahr, bridal gift. An obligatory gift given by the husband to the wife as part of the marriage contract. 3. Inheritance rights, guaranteed share in her husband's estate upon his death. 4. Right to retain personal wealth. Unlike historical Western practices, a wife's property remains hers alone. 5. Right to divorce. If the marriage becomes intolerable, a wife can initiate divorce proceedings. These rights were progressive when introduced and remain relevant in contemporary discussions of gender equity. Core obligations of a wife. Within Islamic jurisprudence, a wife's primary obligations include 1. Mutual respect and kind treatment, muashara bil ma'ruf. 2. Maintaining the household's dignity and privacy. 3. Primary, but not exclusive, responsibility for child-rearing. 4. Reasonable management of the home environment. 5. Fidelity and loyalty to the marriage covenant. These obligations exist within a framework of mutual cooperation, ta'awun, rather than subservience. The Quran emphasizes that spouses are garments for one another, Surah 2 Ayah 187, suggesting mutual protection and support. The concept of obedience, ta'a. One concept that requires careful examination is ta'a, obedience. Classical jurisprudence often emphasized a wife's obedience to her husband, citing Quranic verses like Surah 4 Ayah 34. However, contemporary scholars emphasize that this concept must be understood within proper context. Ta'a doesn't imply blind obedience but rather respect for the husband's role as the family's financial provider and protector. It's conditioned upon the husband fulfilling his obligations and doesn't extend to matters contradicting religious principles or causing harm. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, consistently encouraged consultation, shura, in family affairs rather than authoritarian decision-making. Philosophical foundations, the ethics of complementarity. Islamic marriage philosophy centers on complementarity rather than rigid equality. This perspective acknowledges that men and women have different strengths and responsibilities within the family unit while maintaining their equal human dignity and worth. This philosophical approach recognizes biological differences without diminishing either gender's value. The Quran states, "And the male is not like the female," Surah 3 Ayah 36, acknowledging differences while establishing spiritual equality. "Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, and is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life," Surah 16 Ayah 97. Cognitive biases and interpretation. When discussing a wife's rights and obligations, we must acknowledge how cognitive biases affect textual interpretations. Confirmation bias leads many to selectively interpret texts according to pre-existing beliefs about gender roles. Cultural context bias also influences how scholars interpret texts across different regions and eras. What might appear as an Islamic practice may actually reflect regional customs rather than theological imperatives. Scientific understanding of these biases helps distinguish between core religious principles and cultural accretions. Linguistic analysis of key texts. Critical to understanding this topic is linguistic analysis of key terms. The Quranic word qawaman in Surah 4 Ayah 34, often translated as maintainers or protectors, has been variously interpreted. Linguistic evidence suggests it refers to financial responsibility and protection rather than dominance. Similarly, the term nushuz, often translated as disobedience, more accurately indicates disruption of marital harmony by either spouse. The Quran uses this term for both husbands and wives, Surah 4 Ayah 34 and Surah 4 Ayah 128, suggesting mutual rather than one-sided obligations. The question of financial contribution. Classical Islamic law assigns financial responsibility to husbands while wives are not obligated to contribute financially, even if they possess personal wealth. However, contemporary economic realities have led many Muslim families to adopt dual income arrangements. Modern scholars note that while a wife's financial contribution remains voluntary, couples may negotiate arrangements that recognize changing economic circumstances while respecting Islamic principles. This flexibility demonstrates how Islamic frameworks can adapt to contemporary challenges. Education and personal development. Contrary to some misconceptions, Islam strongly encourages women's education. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, said, "Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim," Ibn Majah, with no gender distinction. Historical Islamic civilization featured numerous female scholars, poets, and professionals. A wife's right to education and personal development remains integral to Islamic teachings. Notable scholars like Ibn Hazm argued that husbands should facilitate their wives' intellectual growth. This tradition continues in contemporary Islamic discourse on women's rights. Intimacy and emotional fulfillment. Islamic teachings emphasize mutual sexual satisfaction and emotional fulfillment within marriage. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, instructed men to treat their wives with kindness and consideration in intimate matters. Both spouses have rights to physical and emotional intimacy, accompanied by obligations of privacy, faithfulness, and consideration. This balanced approach to marital intimacy contrasts with misconceptions about Islamic attitudes towards sexuality. Addressing common misconceptions. Several misconceptions about a Muslim wife's role require correction. 1. Islam doesn't mandate total seclusion. Many early Muslim women participated actively in society. 2. Covering, hijab, represents personal modesty, not male control. 3. Muslim marriages ideally function through mutual consultation, not unilateral authority. 4. Islam grants women full legal personhood and agency. These misconceptions often stem from conflating cultural practices with religious teachings or from extrapolating extreme interpretations to represent the norm. Synthesis and conclusion. Islamic teachings on a wife's rights and obligations establish a framework of mutual respect, complementary roles, and shared purpose. While specific interpretations vary across cultural contexts and historical periods, core principles of dignity, justice, and compassion remain constant. Understanding requires distinguishing between religious principles and cultural practices, appreciating historical context, and recognizing the flexibility within Islamic tradition. The ideal Islamic marriage represents a partnership of mutual support where both spouses fulfill their obligations while honoring each other's rights. This balanced perspective invites both Muslims and non-Muslims to appreciate the nuanced Islamic approach to marital relationships, one that acknowledges differences between spouses while affirming their equal human dignity and shared spiritual journey. And there you have it. We hope you found this information helpful and thought-provoking. Our goal is always to provide you with content that both informs and engages. If you enjoyed this video and found value in it, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to hit that like button. Your positive feedback helps our content reach more viewers who might benefit from it. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to stay updated on our latest uploads. We release new videos regularly and would love to have you join us on this journey of discovery and learning. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care and stay curious.